It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here is WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. I've got a full house in the studio today, starting with Peko. Peko is a police canine. He is trained to detect explosives for the Annapolis Police Department and catch bad guys and gals. With Peko is Sergeant Chris Tucker of the Annapolis Police Department. We also have Officer Jack Manning, Wendy Oliver, and Julie Dinko. And thank you all very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So Wendy, Julie, and Officer Manning started a nonprofit here in Annapolis called
Chesapeake K9 Fund.
Okay, tell me what Chesapeake K9 Fund is.
We are a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and we are primarily focused on raising money for dogs, for their equipment. The departments are very much in need of funding, and there's just nothing there to help them.
Talking to Officer Jack Manning now, a lot of people don't realize that our tax dollars are used a lot for your equipment as a human police officer. Correct. And Sergeant Tucker, but not always used for the canines.
Correct.
And
a lot of the, and I'm learning as much as everyone else is about how the process works. A lot of the budget restraints occur with the care of the dog. It's not the initial purchase of the dog. It's the cage, the training equipment, the medical visits for vets and stuff, and food. That's where the leaders of the jurisdictions look at the budget and say, holy heck, we can't spend all this money on having 10 canines because the expense outside the dog is so great. So we're assisting with not only getting smaller agencies as well as Annapolis City more dogs and training equipment, but some of the other agencies as well. We just bought a heat sensor for a vehicle. We paid for that and the installation for DGS.
And for the listeners that don't realize what that heat sensor is for, this is so dogs do not suffocate inside of a car, a police car, on a very hot day.
Correct.
Which has happened not in Annapolis or Anne Arundel County before, but it has happened in different jurisdictions before,
Yes.
Sadly.
Yes.
So this lets you know that it's too hot, I need to get my dog outside.
Correct.
And these are expensive, as are the cars themselves, as are air conditioning units that will stay on without the car being on, which are available now, and other jurisdictions have. I don't believe you all have yet. So, and the vest, the bullet and stab-proof vest are incredibly expensive.
Yes.
Veterinarian care, very expensive, yes?
Yeah, everything adds up.
It does.
The cages,
And the
too.
city does a good job of supporting us with an annual budget, as do most agencies, but there's always continuing costs. There's always pieces of equipment that don't make those budgets. You know, there's always continuing care or, you know, things that pop up with the dogs that sometimes exceed those budget limitations. So.
And Wendy and Julie, you recognize this, and Officer Manning, you recognize this, and you recognize the fact that the police officers are not fundraisers, and they can't fundraise, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Jack had called me on a personal note several months ago asking me for some ideas to raise money for the police department. And when I went and met with Sergeant Tucker and Brian Antal, I believe was his name, I learned so much about how deprived that department was, and I was completely shocked. I took it back to some of my affiliates in my professional world, and we brainstormed for a fundraiser, and here we are. We are just a little over 4 months old, and we've already raised almost $14,000.
And you're registered with the IRS and the state of Maryland.
100% tax deductible, yes.
Okay, so you're going to be holding events in the future.
We are. We just found out that we are going to be honored with the MRE Tug of War.
Oh, nice.
Stephanie gave me a call the other day to let me know that. And then we're having a 5K at Quiet Waters Park on June 4th. We're going to be opening that up for registration in about a week to 10 days.
And people can find out about this. You're on Facebook as what?
We're on Facebook as Chesapeake K9 Fund. We also have a website, ChesapeakeK9Fund.org, and we're also on LinkedIn.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break. When we come back, let's talk about what this means to you guys as police officers. And Peko isn't trying to have a word in on the microphone as well. This is Donna Cole. We'll be right back on the 1430 Connection. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Wendy Oliver and Julie Dinko, as well as Officer Jack Manning from the Annapolis Police Department. They were of an organization called the Chesapeake K9 Fund. The mission of the Chesapeake K9 Fund is to raise awareness and funds for police dogs and everything that they use and need. That includes protective vest, car heat sensor alarms, car cages, veterinary care, you name it, the works. Also in the studio is Peko, who is Annapolis Police Department K9, and his handler, Sergeant Chris Tucker. And Peko is what?
Peko is a German Shepherd Belgian Malinois mix. He's trained to find explosives, and he does patrol or utility work, which is in the simplest form, just catching bad guys, finding them, locating them, and apprehending if necessary.
Peko lives at home with you also?
He does.
And so Peko requires round-the-clock care. Peko,
He does.
judging by the attention that he's requiring in the studio, requires round-the-clock attention. He needs toys. He needs veterinary. It's nonstop what he needs, right?
That's correct. He doesn't have an off switch. All the dogs that we have in the department and the other surrounding agencies, they're not machines. They're living, breathing animals, so they need continuing care, veterinary care. Obviously, their training for the dogs and the handlers is continuous. That is continuous throughout the life of the team. And then, of course, equipment to support the dogs. Things as simple as, training toys and rewards to vehicles, the cages. All the vehicles are specially outfitted for the dogs so that while they're in transport, they're as safe as they possibly can be. The vehicles are modified to support carrying the dogs with a special insert in the back, usually the back seat area. So that, of course, is a cost that.
And it's all expensive.
Nothing's cheap at all. The nice thing is that these dogs pay for themselves pretty quickly. With the drug dogs, we can demonstrate that a lot quicker because we can articulate in monetary numbers the amount of currency or drugs that the dogs are seizing on a daily basis. With the bomb dogs, it's a little bit harder to tie a monetary figure to it, but they're out there searching for destructive devices, searching for firearms, that sort of thing. So it's hard to put a price tag on the preventative measures.
The training is continuous. It's not like once you get a dog that's been trained for sniffing out explosives, well, there's new explosives that come along every day, correct?
Well, not only that, but it's just like anything. It's a skill. It has to be maintained. If it's not maintained, it's going to be lost. So, all the dogs and their handlers go through initial training. That can range depending upon the method in which we do it. Whether we do it in-house in our training program or we get a dog that's already trained at a vendor. But it can last anywhere from 4 weeks for a dog that's already trained and mated with a handler to 4, 6, 8 months if we do the training all in-house. And once the dog and the handler reach a level of certification that they're allowed to operate on the street, that training continues. They have to report to training usually 2 to 3 times a month for dedicated training days, and
that costs money. This is not like offered.
It's time and money. Yeah, I mean the equipment to support those training needs costs money.
Right.
Yeah. Obviously, the personnel costs for the officers to be assigned to the training, but that's borne by the department.
Yeah, and you were going to say?
And the stress on the department, when they're taking those officers off the field for a while to do that training.
Yeah.
And the dogs that are used by the Annapolis Police Department belong to the Annapolis Police Department, but do you have a partnership with the other law enforcement agencies that you're sharing some of them?
We all help each other out. So we have 5 K9 teams here with the Annapolis City Police Department. The Anne Arundel County team County K9 unit has several teams. Maryland State Police has several teams. But not all of us may be in the same place at the same time, so it's not uncommon for us to go out and assist Anne Arundel County, or for Anne Arundel County to come in and assist us when we don't have a dog team available, or with any of the agencies.
So
really, we really work well together.
So what I'm alluding to for the listeners, don't think that when you make a donation to the Chesapeake K9 Fund that it's going to just the Annapolis Police Department, or just the ladies tell me where these funds do end up. They all end up with local agencies.
They're going to, exactly. We will go to each department with a specific need, and then we run a campaign for what that need is. We just had to get a kennel for a brand new dog that's going to be announced at the end of the week with the Capitol Police over in Annapolis for DGS. And the officer has the dog. He's not in training yet. He needed a kennel for it, so we've supplied him with a kennel. the heat alarm that Jack was just talking about. And now they've come to us, and they're going to need a new vehicle. The current vehicle that K9 Champ is riding in is a 2006 Crown Victoria with almost 200,000 miles on it. And they are going to be upgrading that vehicle, and hence they're going to need a cage that will support 2 dogs. The cost for that cage alone is over $3,000, and the department doesn't have it.
For those that are listening that can't donate with money or a check, if they own an automobile dealership, they certainly can help that way. Yes,
Yes, definitely.
And that is something.
We take Fords, Chevy
Chevys.
Tahoes.
And the dogs don't really care as long as it's a comfy ride.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So we're going to take another short break. When we come back, more about how you can help the Chesapeake K9 Fund. I'm Donna Cole. We'll be right back on the 1430 Connection. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me today is Wendy Oliver, Julie Dinko, as well as Officer Jack Manning. They're the founders of the Chesapeake K9 Fund, as well as Sergeant Chris Tucker of the Annapolis Police Department and his K9 Peko, who's really not all that interested in being interviewed for this. Chesapeake K9 Fund is ensuring that our local police departments throughout the state of Maryland have the funds they need to take care of these dogs, to get the dogs, to make sure they have veterinarian care, dental care, good rides to be in, cages to be in. Sergeant Tucker, the dogs we were just talking about over break come from a variety of vendors. There are law enforcement agencies within the state that will sometimes go out to a local shelter, animal shelter, and get dogs. That's not always possible, correct?
Correct. It depends on what the intended use of the dog is. Obviously, if the dog is going to be doing more disciplines, then it becomes more difficult to find a donated dog or a rescue dog that will satisfy all the requirements. And if the dog is just doing detection work, then it may be easier to find a dog that has the skill set needed. But when we select a dog, we look for a lot of different things, and the requirements to work in the harsh environments and the distractions that these dogs have to, it weeds out a lot of your typical backyard dogs.
Right.
These dogs are bred specifically to be working dogs, whether military or police. Their drives are enhanced through the breeding process to make them the best possible working dogs. Sometimes that makes them not the best pet dogs, but they're very good at the jobs that they do, and
We're laughing in the studio for listeners that don't know. Peko is, again, half Malinois, half German Shepherd, and pure crazy,
Yep.
which makes him a good working dog because he's driven by this energy.
Yep. He's driven by the energy and the drives that are required to do the work.
But he's a sweetheart.
He doesn't have an off switch. He is a lover. He's a social guy. He has a switch when it's time to be serious about apprehension or search work. He is very serious and successful, but he is also very social. And a lot of people have perceptions that the police dogs are these big, mean, nasty animals. And it's so far from the truth, especially nowadays. We really look for balanced dogs that are social and can interact with the public, but also when the time comes to be serious about their work.
And this actually is a great segue because Corporal Amy Megath would be upset with me for not mentioning that she would like to get a therapy dog for the City of Annapolis Police Department. Anne Arundel County Police Department is talking about getting one. Just a dog to have for situations where petting a dog and a dog's presence will come in handy. Ladies, that brings me to you and getting new dogs or replacing dogs that are already in the field. That's a costly endeavor.
The dogs themselves range from $6,500 on average to up to $8,000 just for the dog alone. The other cost that the department suffers is taking that officer out of service for the average of 3 to 4 months to train that dog, and then again the equipment. Right now, the City of Annapolis is in need of heat alert sensor alarms for their vehicles. We have just recently raised the funds to retire K9 Miggy, who is a 9-year-old narcotics dog, and we're looking forward to seeing that in motion. Originally, I talked with the department about possibly enhancing and raising money to buy several dogs, but it was brought to my attention that they don't have the funding to bring all those new officers in at the same time.
Okay.
So it's a problem that I'm hearing across the board from Anne Arundel County, from Capitol, from Maryland State Police. They're all basically saying the same things.
They need dogs and people.
They need dogs, they need people, they need funding for the dogs.
Okay, we can't help with the people, but we can certainly help with the dogs, and we do help with the people when we mention that you are recruiting, and I know you are actively recruiting right now for that as well, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so if people want to help, how can they help?
We have a donate button on our Facebook page, which is Chesapeake K9 Fund. We have a donate button on our website. We also have...
Which is ChesapeakeK9Fund.org.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
My email, Wendy at ChesapeakeK9Fund.org, is on there. You can contact me. I just met a family about 2 weeks ago to receive a donated item that was given to an officer in need. So our board consists of 10 members, and we are all very, very available at any time for
And with these
assistance.
events that are coming up, including the run at Quiet Waters, again, what date is that going to be?
That's going to be Sunday, June the 4th.
Okay, you're going to need sponsors for that. You're going to need gifts to give away for
Absolutely.
Yes.
We need sponsors. We need volunteers. We need help with portable toilets. And the list is not ending.
So don't think just because you can't write a check, you can't help in any other ways. Officer Manning, what am I missing? What haven't I mentioned that you would like to relay? How important this is?
We're covering a lot of information that we need to get out there. Getting the dogs and the training that we need for the agencies in the area is our number one priority.
All right, very good. And again, how many dogs are there currently?
The city police department has 5 canine teams.
How many would you like to see?
20.
We could always use more, but
what
it's
are
like everything else. The city does a good job of supporting what we have.
What are those dogs? They're all trained for explosives, or?
Yeah. 4 of the teams are drug patrol dogs, drug and patrol dogs, and then we have the one explosive dog here.
Would it be nice to have a cadaver dog?
We have outlets available to us through private search and rescue organizations. We don't have, I would say, us personally, maybe other agencies in the state, such as DNR, but we don't have a specific need on a daily basis that I believe to support that type of dog. But we have outlets available. We have very tight connections with some of the search and rescue groups in the area who do that type of work and train for that type of work, so it's easier for us personally to reach out to them and garner their expertise.
All right. How about food? Dog food, is that part of the expense? And
Yes,
if there are people listening,
The canines seem to love pig ears.
also Kongs, right, as far as
they love their
toys?
pig ears
Yeah.
and their rubber balls.
Okay. Thank you all very much for joining me
Thank you
today.
for having us.
This is Donna Cole. This has been the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.